Well, everyone, this is going to be fun. One of the most annoying trends has finally came for us. I'm going to be talking about 4 fake games in this video, but they're 4 fake games from big IPs that you know, right? It's Crash Bandicoot, Guitar Hero, and Call of Duty. Because literally, Activision and Microsoft have just promoted that. They have promoted fake games. I'm not lying to you. That is literally a true statement, but it is a statement that kind of raises more questions than it answers. And to set the tone for all of this, I want you to remember what Phil Spencer said just after the acquisition. We want to be good custodians. Of course, he's talking about the IP. He said that they didn't want to just start projects, quote, just for financial gain, and most importantly for today, that they wouldn't, quote, create a PR announcement and not deliver. Well then, let's get into today's story. It's going to be fun. And I've also got something beyond OP for you, which is Factor 75. They have sponsored today's video, and they will legit save you hours a week. So what Factor does is Factor sends you delicious, fresh, never frozen meals from a weekly menu of 35 options, which is a huge quality of life upgrade. And the brilliant news is you can get 50% off and free shipping on your first Factor box using my link. You can either click that in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. So the way it works, right, is those 35 meals can fit your diet choices. You can choose between calorie smart, keto, high protein, vegan, and veggie. And on top of that, they've got over 60 add-ons, which means you can also sort out breakfast, snacks, lunches, all that stuff. And to me, it's an absolute no-brainer because meal planning and meal prep do actually end up taking hours, especially if you want to try food that is new and different. You gotta go, you gotta shop, and then of course, if you're doing meal prep or if you're cooking every night, that is a hell of a lot. And if you've already got busy week, family obligations, this kind of thing can be absolutely humongous, especially because whenever life's busy, well, then that's really when you don't end up cooking and you get an unhealthy takeout, which isn't healthy, and it also costs you way too much money. So what Factor does is Factor takes the pressure off and helps you make each week better. And to start, you'll get 50% off and free shipping for your first box if you use my link. You can either click it in the description or scan the QR code with your phone. Here are the 4 games that kick this whole thing off. The first one is a Fall Guys style Crash Bandicoot like party game, which to be honest, I'd be totally down for. I loved playing Crash Bash when I was a kid. There's also an isometric zombie killing Call of Duty, there's a sniper assassin Call of Duty, and the return of Guitar Hero featuring head-to-head battles, which, you know, was kind of hard to believe at face value. I mean, if all that was happening, it would literally be Activision using their IP, trying new things, I guess, actually surprising us, doing cool things that maybe some of us would want. And more importantly, that would be the fulfillment of the best case reading of Phil Spencer's words, of developers having the freedom and the resources to do more than just Call of Duty. But don't worry, that good thing is not happening. You're not going to have to update your whole model of how the world works, because this was firmly not that. Instead, it's AI slop. Official AI slop. What we just looked at for these 4 games were basically adverts that were slowly rolled out over time on social media platforms, kind of in stealth mode, where there was just ads posted but no big reveal, right? No press release or anything like that. But obviously, as soon as players picked up in the prospect of a new Crash Bandicoot game, right? Or maybe the first Guitar Hero since 2015. Surprises me it's 2015. I thought that died a few years earlier. But anyway, of course, the press machine began to spin up, right? If you played Crash Bash when you were a kid, the idea of Fall Guys meets Crash is really exciting. So this stuff really went beyond its target audience of just little mobile game ads and shit. And, well, tighter scrutiny came. And that involved us taking a look at them and seeing that, well, they all reek of AI. The characters in the Crash images are just kind of variations of Crash or weird unfinished character designs. It's very odd. The instruments, the audience, and even the speakers in Guitar Hero Mobile, are melting. They appear to be melting, and the beats don't actually match this, like, the style of the series. It's weird. The less that is said about the lack of feet, the weird room layouts, and the absurd designs of the Call of Duty games, the better. So altogether, this is some pretty goofy shit. It looked like a kind of stealth release of weird AI slop games promoted with slop ads. Very bizarre. And of course, this is all happening right as we're talking about the complete abominations that they are stuffing actual real Call of Duty that people like buy with real money. You know, the stuff they're stuffing that with. So the idea that Activision would churn out mass-made AI slop ads to pour onto social media for like a bunch of mobile games or something, that's totally in character. But this is actually not that. Because if you click in one of these adverts, you will find that these games are in fact fake. They're not real. You're met with a, quote, "Thanks for your interest. This isn't a real game, but it could be someday. We'd love if you could answer this short survey, which could help inform the potential future of this game. Your feedback really matters to us." Okay, so let's break down what's happening here, because this whole thing is a little bit new to like premium game franchises, right? Big IPs. But it is in fact one of the many scourges of mobile gaming finally coming for us. Okay, what we're about to do is a massive life skill. We're going to do a frame shift. So pretend now that you are Activision. Your goal is really simple. You want data. It's all about finding out what type of person would click on a Guitar Hero or a Crash game advert in the year 2025. But even deeper than that, it's not just about Crash or COD. It's about the framing of a game. You know, what actually gets a higher conversion rate. So if that advert gets, say, 300,000 impressions, how many will click? Because, well, if you're showcasing one sort of game feature in an advert and it gets more clicks than another game feature, that's the game feature you'll focus on. What's the name of the game? What color is the text? What's the color palette of the game? What this essentially is the fail fast mantra, but, you know, without actually building the damn thing first. The whole point of fail fast and I suppose startups and everything is you, even if you fail, do kind of learn quite a lot by actually building something and grappling with a problem. If you strip away all the actual work and you just are doing this with the weird AI slop, you're not really going to get most of the value of fail fast. But basically, this is something that's normal in mobile. What happens in mobile is they create some advertising, right, that is based off a set of concepts for games without actually making those games. So a company will draft up a whole range of game concepts, right? They will pump out adverts and then they'll greenlight whatever gets the best conversion rate. And in a way, it does make sense, right? I mean, you do kind of want to fail fast. You would rather know a concept is inherently unappealing before you put loads of time and knowledge into it. But, well, a lot of the benefits of this approach come from rapid prototyping and actual work done by actual game designers. But that is not the case here. These are not game designers having a prototype for a game and doing some testing. This is, in fact, its own industry. So it's time for you to learn about the new Slop Factory. And look, quick thing, I don't want to appear too gleeful here, it's just that this is all such weird, goofy bollocks that it is honestly kind of fun to talk about. I guess it's, you know, either that or just genuinely feel depressed about it. But here's the deal with this. Activision are working with a company called Geek Lab. Just a lab full of geeks. Now, they proudly offer their services in concept validation. So basically, Geek Labs have got paid fake ads with surveys, and their whole thing that they offer to their clients is basically, we'll pump out a bunch of this shit and we will come back to you and we will tell you roughly what you should be making and what people are interested in. And the thing is, this makes logical, rational sense. In a way, this is why I asked you to perform the frame shift. If you are a cost optimizing manager, right, you're going to think, well, there's no point in making a game that is inherently something the market's not really that interested in. So how about we first do something like this, get a whole bunch of testing, and then we can be guided by data. But of course, the thing about always being guided by data is that data is what we call a lagging indicator, not a leading indicator. You're not going to do something creative and new that could perhaps get you exponentially better results if all you're doing is trying to build a computable spreadsheet that you then go and perfectly make your decisions off. Because hey, if it all goes to shit, you did a good spreadsheet. You can't be fired, you followed it by the book. And in this case, it's something that's doomed to fail, and especially this case. So all of this is built on the principle that nothing gets made unless Geek Labs is getting good data. And that's kind of the problem here. We are not talking about Age of War, Fire Legends Unchained, which I'm sure has some amazing live action thing with Anthony Starr or some other big famous person who just loves playing mobile games. No. These are established brands that audiences love and want to love. I mean, I don't give a shit about Crash right now, but I have nostalgic memories as a kid. So if you bring me a new Crash, I'm going to be kind of excited, right? I mean, a Crash that's like that kind of Crash that I like, Crash Bash, which is why this one was relevant to me. Just that whenever I see them put the thing that gives me all the nostalgia through a horrific AI slop blender machine, well, doesn't really hit true. And with this, all Activision has achieved is to cheapen those brands, because if you've got a mascot character, you should never show it off in a way that is below par. And they've also kind of said the quiet part out loud. We do not believe in our creative vision for these brands. We do not know what to do with them. We know you love them, but we basically don't have a clue. And we don't even trust ourselves. That's why we need to make weird fake things to try and somehow find out. Now, whether that's true or not, that is what this projects to an audience. It's galling with Guitar Hero and Crash Bandicoot, where new games don't really seem to be that likely. In return for their sliver of data, you've now seen these officially sanctioned slop things via our video. And because you have seen those, well, you now kind of value those brands a little bit less because you see what the people who own those brands are willing to put out into the public eye. With this, Geek Labs are clearly cutting every corner. Because if these were games that were actually in production, you know what? I would not mind some sort of advert-based thing to try and gauge what people were interested in if it was real, if some actual work was being done, and you got a sense that there was a team of developers who could look at this data and maybe learn something from it. But this is not that. And it seems pointless because why do they need to do fake art? They have banks of concept artists who, well, I'm sure would be happy to go and do some tasks. Crash Bandicoot and Guitar Hero are beloved. Call of Duty is one of the biggest media properties on the planet. Using them to lure people's clicks under false pretenses does not necessarily mean that Activision and Geek Labs have cleverly manipulated the audience into handing over their data, though what we know it does is it just cheapens what those games even mean and burns audience trust entirely. And that is the thing that is just above everything else, right, in this industry. And I suppose the sad, pathetic end to this is that Geek Labs actually do seem to have scrubbed the fake posts that they made, even if the original posts are still up in social media. The official stuff has now been scrubbed away. So if you try to click through to do your survey, now all you get is an error message. It's probably because this campaign got too much attention and they've realized that any data harvested after a certain point is basically completely ruined. It's now obvious, I think, that this has done more harm than good. And even though Phil Spencer likely is nowhere near the causal chain of decisions and responsibility that led to this, he is the boss, and this goes against his word. And so we get to the big picture, and honestly, listen up, this shit is coming, and it's coming in more than just games. The idea, right, that a games company would be ambiguous with the truth is nothing new. We all remember bullshots, at least if you were around back when that was a whole drama. Everyone understands the gameplay trailers may not necessarily represent real people playing the game. Whenever you see Ubisoft's fake people like Bronson, play a co-op game using full military slang trying to be tactical, but we basically understand what's up. There's a degree of give and take. We know a trailer is a trailer. We know that shipping an entire game is kind of hard. The audience knows they are being marketed to before the release, so they know there's a healthy degree of skepticism, but the publishers equally know that they will be held to those promises when they do release, for better or for worse, and my god, it would be nice if they took that bit a bit more seriously. Now, it's been a while since we saw a company at the scale of Activision just actively make shit up for projects that aren't real. And of course, as we see layoffs, budget cuts, and other commercial incentives for coverage that are impacting the media landscape around games, including for streamers and YouTubers, this makes companies like Activision basically feel like they can get away with this stuff more and more and more. Now, I know there's a whole discussion about games media. There's lots of great games media, there's lots of very much not great games media. But overall, what it is actually is a contracting space. Now, a lot of it is just regurgitated press releases and freelancer stuff. And some of that can be fine, well and good. But if you've got some big investigative story, the sort of thing that requires a lot of time and research and digging and robust sourcing, that has actually been contracting and contracting and contracting. And the weaker that kind of thing is, well, the more companies like Activision will feel that they can just kind of do shit like this, and that it will be lost in the mud, that it won't really get covered, and that if it does get covered, it's just going to be buried over. This story isn't about Activision being a bit sus. We already know that. It's about how far they think they can push in a real exercise like this with their most premium valuable brands. I mean, Call of Duty's being screwed here. Of course, real Call of Duty is also being screwed. Now, in an ideal world, right, the fact that they've started to scrub this from the internet does mean they'll think twice before trying again. But make no mistake, we're entering a new era. As an example, here is HeyGen's UGC advertising avatars. These are designed to pump out those strange fake TikTok product placement hell adverts. So you can just go, fire a spreadsheet into it, and there you go. You have 8,000 adverts. That's happening. We're working in a piece right now that is centered on a lot of slop stuff, making it onto Steam, and even here in YouTube, right? I find more and more faceless AI automation channels appearing in my feed. We're the people who are more trained to look out for this, right? The engaged ones, like you and me. The broad public, the broad audiences, well, it'll be easier for them to be duped. So all I can say is, guard yourself. And the good news is you should consider this video to be the perfect follow-up, because you can see what they're actually doing with AI and other stuff inside big real premium Call of Duty that people have paid money for.